Oi oi, Cheltenham Festival Week is basically here. We've had the final declarations for day one of the Cheltenham Festival. So we do know the final fields, bar a couple of late withdrawals. Should that happen, hopefully they won't. I can't see there being too many defectors at this particular stage. But we'll have all done our form study, I suppose. The final fields will now be putting the final pieces of the puzzle together. This is where trends and statistics start to come a bit further forward for me. Now, I do have a bit of a handle on them anyway, but I just wanted to talk about a couple of websites, mainly one that I just think you guys need to know about. I'm sure plenty of you already do, but I'm going to skim through it with a bit of screen sharing up on here in a moment. It's Gault Stats. Brian Gault produces this. He's done it for a good number of years. It is completely free. He does have a link to Prostate Cancer UK if you are willing to make a charitable donation, but you can get on there for free. There's no need to sign up or anything like that. Now, he adds these statistics and trends with context. A lot of sites that will be out there, one other that I'm going to quickly mention, just chuck out and churn out numbers. So it's very easy, especially on the social media site, to see someone throw out a statistic that really has no context, and without that context has no meaning. Now, some stats and trends exactly are there to be broken. Some stats and trends are there to prove that things are very difficult to get done. But all in all, it is nice to have a handle on those things. Like I say, we've done the form study, so that should be the vast majority of what decides and dictates whether you're going to place a bet on a horse, I suppose. But also when it comes to now, we might be thinking about pool bets, we might be thinking about the tote place, but we might be thinking about Colossus pools, maybe thinking about the quad pot, the jackpot, we may be thinking about forecast, tricast, we might be thinking about forecast doubles, we might be thinking about block bets, sticking a couple of horses in a couple of races and just seeing how we can get on, each way doubles, all those sorts of things. So now final fields are there, the handicaps are a lot easier to go through. As I say, I'm going to show you on the screen at the moment, Brian's site. We're going to skim through a couple of races just to quickly talk about some trends on each of the 4 days. I don't want this video to be too long. You guys can go and have a look at your leisure. And then the one other site that I'm going to talk about, I'll quickly put that up just before we go on to Brian's site, is Juice Storm, because if you do just quite like quick and short without context approach stats, they are on there. They do sometimes put a paragraph underneath talking about the race, how they view it based on the statistics that they provided. But like I say, if you just want a quick list, just to mark your card to say, look, these are my form horses I like, these are the ones that necessarily tick the boxes, these are the ones that maybe have a slight concern about them, then I know we've got 48 hours now until the races go off, and I'm sure plenty of you will be looking at the same cards over and over, already knowing what you already know about form. So without further ado, let's switch over to the screen and I'm going to show you a couple of statistics.
So, just before I skip on to the Gault Stats stuff and a quick skim at Juice Storm, I wrote a piece about Gaelic Warrior in the Boodles. Now, people will be sick to death of me talking about this horse, but just for those of you that watch the videos and haven't seen, I'll post a link to all of these sites I'm talking about in the description. But what I mean about posting comments without context is, people are saying Willie Mullins has never had a winner of the Boodles, and that is true, but people are saying it as though he can't have the winner of the Boodles, or he's been trying at least. So I chucked in some stats for these, and these are put in with context and with a bit of depth. So just a quick view, which you can see up on the screen anyway, is that Willie Mullins has had 16 runners in the race since its inception in 2005. I've added an extra one renewal onto there because you had the extra runner, so out of 17 renewals. If we look at like his percentage chance, so this is taken by the prices that the horses are. You divide that by one, or one's divided by the price that the horse is, and that will give you the percentage chance of a horse. So if we've got two even money chances in a race, like a coin flip, for example, 50%, 50% chance equals 100%. For every 100% you reach, that equals one winning result, or one winner in this instance. So the price wise for all of the Willie Mullins horses that have run across the 16 runners that he's had is 114.74%, so 115%. If you put in typical over round for a bookmaker, you're going to be looking at 110% anyway. So that's not far off saying, look, we should have had one winner from Willie Mullins. And if you go back and watch the 2016 Boodles, Voiderev fell at the last when, massively in contention, looked like it was with the winner. So I know it fell, and I know it proves that he didn't have the winner, but if you really look into it, he could have had the one winner that the odds would suggest he should have had. Also, people talk about favourites having a terrible record in the race. Well, okay, maybe there hasn't been too many favourites in recent years in the race, but 3 out of the 17 favourites have won the race. One of those was a joint favourite, so that's the reason why the 16 have gone up to 17, because 17 it's a joint favourite. Lots of them have finished in the top 3, lots of them have placed, most of them have finished in the top 10. talking about the ones that are rated under a certain number just to fall in with Gaelic Warrior in here. But basically, again, going for those prices, 323% was the overall percentage chance using their prices. So how many winners should we have had of the 17? Well, 3 according to this percentage, and we've had 3 winners. So they're running to form. Potentially, there has been a couple of other favourites that have been very close that could have been there or thereabouts to tip the scales one way or the other. But ultimately, even with Gaelic Warrior running this year, let's say he goes off as a 2-1 poke, that's a 33% chance. That puts this number up to about 360%. So in theory, we're not even due to get another favourite to win it just yet. So pinch of salt with all those sort of things. They're running sort of as to be expected. We'll look at Galt stat stuff now, and then we can go on to day one things. And then I'm just going to skim through a few races and a few days because, again, I'm conscious how much I like to warble, and I know that you guys can go and look at this stuff yourself. But I just want to pick out some key points on each of them. Tell you what, I know this is bad. Like, Galt Stats is the main reason for this video, but we'll quickly just go to Juice Storm, right? I'll send you, again, links and all of this, just so you can see what I mean about the quick pluses, where they have it listed, and they'll just give you some numbers, and then we've got the negatives. Sometimes they can just be the counter side of what the positives are anyway, and then they're doing the same for the races, the ultimate, things like that. So you can use more than one source for statistics. I'm not saying you only have to use these two, but the more the merrier, really, and you can see which ones have got more of a stronger representation in them as they are. So again, have a look at those if you want the quick and dirty ones. Galt Stats is in depth, but it doesn't have to be that far in depth. So we'll have a look at, I mean, we could go on any of them, but I don't want to dwell for too long, but you see there's a nice little paraphrase at the beginning where he's talking basically in a paragraph of what a summary really is for the race. No horses wearing any type of headgear since flown. Champagne Fever, the only champion bumper to win since Montelado, etc., etc. There's lots of bits in there. I won't just read it off there. Then there's a summary underneath, which is really handy. So this is basically telling you your profile of the winner that you'd like. You'd prefer something 5 to 6, or a short price favourite. You want it to have won at least once over hurdles, etc., etc. There's bits in there talking about certain horses. So watch for any horse who starts under 10 to 1 and ran in last year's champion bumper. So if we go through the supreme numbers, it basically is picking out Constitution Hill, John Bon, Dysart Dynamo, Kilcret. So you wouldn't, I'm not saying you don't need this, but this is just going to point you to the direction of the horses that are towards the head of the market. So sometimes the stats can be a bit better for handicaps than for graded races, but you can see there's lots of details down here, and with each of these like sections in here, Brian has gone into depth, spent a load of time to go through and talk about the horses and how the specific trends, etc., really are relevant. So if you were looking at the cheek pieces or a headgear angle where it said we've had no winner of it, we can read here how many horses have actually run on those numbers. All those sorts of things. So it's unreal, and it depends obviously how deep you want to go with it. But if you want to strengthen your own case or you want to talk yourself out of something, you can do it in here. The Arkle's a decent one because we know that people talk about the 8-year-olds, we talk about the 5-year-olds. You can see here with the ratings and stuff. But really, if you were to go through this particular summary, like Edwardstone well deserves to be favourite, ticks the boxes. So we see here, not 8 years old or older unless a grade 1 chase winner and rated in the high 150. So Edwardstone ticks that box. We talk about not being outside of the first 2. We talk about horses that's unlikely to have fallen this season, but if so, has won all other races. So I know I think he was unseated, wasn't he? But brought down maybe. It's still an incompleted finish, but the stats and stuff are in there. There's times in there as well. So sometimes he talks about the times not being relevant in certain races. In other races it is. So you get the time boys that will chuck things out. Sometimes just ignore it. Sometimes it's worth looking at. And then we talk about favourites and stuff in these particular races as well. Now, I think it's been 7 of the last 10 favourites have won, but all of those have been odds on. So we can look at the honours board for the last 10. We'll see all the favourites and the price they've gone in there. Although favourites have a very good record in the Arkle and probably the best favourite record across the whole festival, they've all been odds on when they've won. So again, you could use that as an argument to say favourites have a great record in the race, but then you could also say odds against favourites maybe don't, but then you need to price it up and all those things. You can basically prove anything with facts. Again, it's whittled down further down. So we talk about the 5-year-olds a lot with the Arkle, so I'll just skim through that while we're here now. They do well with smaller numbers, but allowance stopped after 2008. No 5-year-old winner since Vuipoint and Studes in 2008. No 5-year-olds ran in 6 of the last 9 years. All Mankind only beat one home. Fakir Doudrey's was a good second to put the kettle on. St. Calvados went off too quick. None ran in the previous 2 years. Clarkham beat one home in 2015. They're 0 from 13 since 2007. We've got St. Sam, Riviere de Tail and Coulier. So basically, when we're looking at it, and again, in terms of actual chances, we're probably not really due a 5-year-old winner yet, given how many have run and the prices they've been. There's 3 that potentially could be dotting up in here, and we've seen that it's a particularly weak Arkle. So of the statistics and things like that, when we say about horses and ages, the 5-year-old would put me off less for this particular this particular race. Like, I don't care about the 5-year-old stat so much. I'll be looking more at form. But again, from what I've skimmed of this, it would be a resounding. Let's have a look at Edwardstone, I guess. The handicaps, I say, will probably be better, and I'm not going to go through every single piece that's in here, but they will talk about certain things in here with prize money, all different, like, not of strange stats, but stats that are relevant that you probably wouldn't necessarily look for. And again, it doesn't mean that this is the sole reason you're going to be selecting a horse, but it is a good way to have a look at a few things. Lots of people like to get stuck into trends and stuff for the handicap, so this really helps. Brian's really good with the depth that he goes into and the time that he spends doing this, but also for the fact that some races have changed their complexion over the years. We know the more recent ones where we've had, like, the Grand Daniel moving for the Friday until the Wednesday, and that's obviously changed course in that respect. But there's other things that have changed, like conditions and stuff, that most people, when they're quoting stats, don't chuck in there. They'll say the last 20, and the conditions of the race have changed within that range. So that's a quick view of the Friday stats. Obviously, there's something for every single race at the whole of the festival. There are general trends as well. I get commented a lot on videos where people will say certain things. So a recent one, and this isn't to poo-poo someone, but they've obviously heard this from somewhere, or they're under the belief that on average 4 favourites win a year at the festival. You can see from the numbers here, 8, 7.5, that's half favourites, and we've got co-favourites, but you can see they're the true numbers of what happens. And then we can see again below the odds on, we see the price ranges if they're under 3-1, so sometimes that could be a stronger forte to look at. But again, it's not just him putting the numbers at the top. You look underneath, the depth that he goes into about which to look at. He talks about backing favourites, blinds. He tells you which particular favourites would be ones to lay. Prediction time, like, there's all sorts of different things in there. The over rounds as well, when we're talking about percentages of the books, there's all sorts of information in there that are not particularly day specific, but are Cheltenham specific, and they're all just nice things to have in your armoury. It's also important, I think, just to study and to level up your knowledge. That's why I'm happy to share. I don't know everything, but I do know a lot of things that other people in their earlier years of betting or don't bet as much probably don't know. So it's just important to keep learning. Once you understand some of these general trends, they will be ingrained inside you. So when it comes to looking at the Cheltenham Festival going forward, yes, you need to refresh and make sure they're still relevant, but certain things that people will say will have more bearing on whether you believe them or not. So really, really good site. Can't promote it enough. Like I say, there will be a link in the description below. So please do go and have a look at it. There's all different stuff in there. Like I say, we've talked about the fact that there's the favourites and there's jockeys, trainers. Like, the general trends are insane to go and have a look at. He's even got a fun quiz on the page anyway. But it's essential reading as far as I'm concerned. We've all got time. We're all excited about the Cheltenham Festival. We've all watched plenty of previews. Spend some time skimming through Galt Stats because you will not regret it. So I think that pretty much just draws to a close the stat stuff. As I say, lots of people will ban things about, which is fine, but lots of stuff is posted without context. I try to do these videos because it gives me more of an opportunity to explain and talk about my views, my opinions, than it does when I do written arguments. Speaking of which, I'm going to try and get some writing out for the selections that I've got. I'm going to do some notes anyway, but there will be a video coming out later this evening and every day building up towards the festival of my final selections for each race, and I'll be telling you who I've actually bet on. I'm not going to go into the depths of odds and prices and stakes and all those sort of things yet. I'll do a review video of how I've got on, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I'm talking about horses through the season, there may be some that I've put up that I've not even had a penny on myself. There may be some that I'm yet to mention because I've only just picked them up on Stats Trends or Final Form Study that I'm now having a bet on. So be lucky, everyone. I hope this is of some use. I know for a fact it will be. Please do go check out Galt Stats. I've put a link to that Boodles blog if anyone wants to have a way to fall asleep tonight, because it is a long old slog, but again, I just don't like things posted without context and people being lazy by just pinching. They've heard something from somebody else, they then jump on the bandwagon with it. All of a sudden, everyone's talking about something that isn't actually a relevant stat. Sorry there, I started to choke on my own words. Right, that's it. Have a very good festival, and I will see you soon.